That day in the kitchen changed everything. I didn't know it then, but what started as a quiet afternoon would become the moment that rewired how I saw Lena forever. The house was silent, filled only with the ticking clock and the low hum of sunlight through the blinds. Richard and Monica had gone out together, leaving just the two of us behind. Me, restless on the couch, and Lena somewhere upstairs. We'd lived under the same roof for 2 years, sharing polite conversations but nothing deeper. She was precise, structured, the kind of person who made lists even for her day off. I was the opposite, lazy, wandering, content with half-finished thoughts. We didn't clash, we just coexisted. But lately, something invisible had started to shift between us. It began with the smallest details. The way her eyes held mine a moment too long. The way she lingered in the doorway before leaving a room. At first I thought it was my imagination playing tricks on me, but the more I noticed, the more it unsettled me. There was an energy around her now. Something neither of us could name. I sat in the kitchen that Wednesday, scrolling through my phone, trying not to think about it. The air felt thick. Then I heard soft footsteps on the tile. Lena's voice cut through the stillness. "Hey," she said, stepping into view, arms crossed, her tone light but loaded. I looked up. She leaned against the doorway, her hair loose, her eyes steady. "Hey," I replied, pretending to be calm. "What's up?" She shrugged and crossed the room slowly. "Nothing. It's just too quiet up there." "Yeah," I said, setting my phone down. "Richard and Monica won't be back for a while." "I know," she answered, a small curve forming at the corner of her mouth. That smile did something to me, something I didn't want to admit. The silence stretched, and I could hear the faint sound of water running as she filled a glass at the sink. Every move she made felt deliberate, like she knew I was watching. I tried not to, but my eyes betrayed me. "What are you doing here all alone?" she asked, turning toward me. "Just bored," I said. "Killing time?" "You've been acting differently lately," she said. "Different how?" I asked. She tilted her head, her voice soft. "You've been avoiding me." Her words caught me off guard. Maybe she was right. I hadn't meant to. But every time I looked at her, that strange pull between us grew stronger, and I didn't know what to do with it. "I'm not avoiding you," I lied. She set her glass down and stepped closer. "Really?" she said quietly. "Because it feels like you are." The air thickened. My heartbeat grew loud enough to fill the room. She was only a few feet away now, her presence so strong it was hard to breathe. "I think you are," she said. "But you don't have to be." I froze. Her tone wasn't teasing. It was something else, something vulnerable. I tried to respond, but the words fell flat. "You don't have to pretend," she whispered, her gaze holding mine. I wanted to step back, to say something logical, but my body wouldn't listen. Lena reached out, her fingers brushing my arm. Barely a touch, but it sent a spark through me that made my chest tighten. I felt every beat of my heart, as if it belonged to her. "You don't have to say anything," she murmured, her voice low. She moved closer, close enough for me to feel the warmth of her breath, the smell of her shampoo, the steady rhythm of her breathing. It all blurred together. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then her lips grazed my cheek. It wasn't a kiss, not really, more a whisper of what could be. But it shattered whatever barrier we'd built between us. I stood frozen, my mind spinning. Every thought I'd buried came rushing to the surface. Curiosity, guilt, desire, confusion. "Lena," I whispered. I didn't know what I meant to say. She smiled faintly. "What?" I could have walked away. I could have ended it right there. Instead, I stayed. The world outside the kitchen disappeared. It was just us, breathing the same uneven air. "We can't," I managed to say. Her eyes softened, not defiant but knowing. "Who says we can't?" I searched for logic, for something to ground me. But logic had left the room, my thoughts tangled with hers, unspoken and electric. I knew what was coming before it happened. The slow step forward, the tilt of her chin, the moment when time itself seemed to hesitate. And then she kissed me. It was gentle, hesitant at first, as if she was asking a question I couldn't answer. I didn't pull away. I kissed her back, slow, unsure, but real. Every nerve in my body lit up. For the first time, silence didn't feel empty. It felt alive. When she finally drew back, both of us were breathless. Her forehead rested against mine. The air was thick with everything we hadn't said. "What just happened?" I whispered. Her answer was a soft smile. "You tell me." The clock kept ticking on the wall, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had. The next few days felt like walking through fog. Every time I saw Lena, my heart tripped over itself. We didn't talk about the kiss. We didn't need to. The memory hung in the air, silent but alive, pulsing like a secret only the walls could hear. I tried pretending things were normal. Watching TV, scrolling my phone, anything to avoid thinking about her. But she was everywhere. Every sound, every movement, every glance felt heavier now. It wasn't just attraction. It was the quiet realization that something had shifted between us, something impossible to undo. A week later, Richard and Monica went out for dinner. Again, the house belonged to us. I sat on the couch, TV flickering with noise I wasn't really watching. My mind kept replaying that day in the kitchen. The warmth of her skin, the way her voice dropped just before she kissed me. Then came the sound of footsteps. Soft, familiar. Lena walked in, her hair tied back, her sleeves rolled up as if she'd been cleaning. She stopped in the doorway and looked at me for a long moment. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I nodded, but my throat was dry. "Yeah, just thinking." She smiled a little, the kind of smile that hides more than it shows. "About what?" I hesitated. "Everything." She sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat from her body. "Yeah," she said after a pause. "Me too." For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was charged, like a wire humming between us. I wanted to say something, to break it, but my thoughts tangled together. Finally, I whispered, "We said we'd take it slow." Lena turned toward me, her expression soft. "We are," she said, her voice low. "But that doesn't mean pretending nothing's happening." Her words hit something deep inside me. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw that same quiet tension in her eyes. The mix of fear and want, of right and wrong twisting together. Before I could speak, she leaned in. The kiss was slower this time. Tender. Certain. My hand found her waist without thinking. Her fingers brushed the back of my neck, and I felt my pulse racing under her touch. The world dimmed, soundless except for our breathing. When she pulled back, she stayed close enough for her breath to touch my skin. "We can't keep pretending," she whispered. I wanted to say no, to stop this, to bring sense back into the room, but sense had nothing to do with it anymore. Everything logical had melted away. I could only feel. The warmth of her lips, the weight of her closeness, the way time itself seemed to hold still. It happened again. Another kiss, deeper, needier. The world shrank to just us and the soft rhythm of our hearts colliding. When it ended, we were breathless. I could barely meet her eyes. "We should stop," I said, though my voice betrayed the truth. "Do you really want to?" she asked. I hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't come. "I don't know," I admitted. Lena brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Maybe this isn't about right or wrong," she said softly. "Maybe it's just about being honest." Her honesty scared me. It stripped away the excuses I'd been hiding behind. I wasn't ready to face how much I wanted her. Not just physically, but emotionally. It was as if my life before her had been drawn in grayscale, and she had painted it in color. "I don't want to mess things up," I said finally. "You won't," she replied. "Not if we're careful." The confidence in her voice made my chest ache. She believed what she was saying. Maybe she had to. Maybe I did too. The clock ticked on, indifferent. The night outside deepened, shadows stretching across the walls. We sat there, caught between what we knew we shouldn't feel and what we couldn't ignore anymore. Lena reached for my hand. Her touch was light, hesitant, but it made my heart stumble all over again. "We'll figure it out," she whispered, "one step at a time." Her words lingered in the air, gentle and dangerous all at once. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I believed it. I wanted to, because believing meant we hadn't already crossed too far. It meant there was still a way to make sense of what we were becoming. As the silence returned, the distance between us vanished again. We stayed there, close but not touching, breathing in rhythm. Two people lost between what they feared and what they couldn't resist. And even though neither of us said it out loud, I knew the truth. We were already too far gone to turn back. The night after that second kiss stayed with me. It replayed in my mind every time I closed my eyes. The softness of her voice, the quiet certainty in her touch, the way she said we'd figure it out. But the more I thought about it, the less certain I became. What exactly were we figuring out? Days blurred together, a strange mix of routine and restraint. Richard and Monica came and went as usual, never suspecting a thing. Lena and I acted like everything was fine, but the air between us told another story. Every conversation felt like walking along the edge of something fragile. One wrong step, and it would all collapse. One evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table flipping through a magazine I wasn't reading when Lena appeared. The sun had gone down, and the dim light from the overhead lamp painted her face in soft shadows. She didn't say anything at first, just watched me, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk," she said finally. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of everything unsaid. I set the magazine aside. My pulse quickened. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I guess we do." She sat across from me, folding her hands on the table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock, my own heartbeat. "I don't know what to do," she said at last. "I don't know how we're supposed to act now." I nodded slowly, trying to find words that didn't exist. Me neither. The truth was I was just as lost as she was. What had happened between us wasn't something we could erase, but it also wasn't something we could explain. Not to ourselves, not to anyone else. "Do you regret it?" she asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her question hit like a cold wind. I looked up, meeting her eyes. For a second, I thought about lying, about saying yes to make it easier. But the truth refused to stay buried. "No," I said softly. "I don't." Lena's shoulders dropped, the tension in her posture easing. "Me neither," she admitted. "But I'm scared," I frowned. "Scared of what?" "Of what this means," she said. "Of what happens if we keep going. And of what happens if we stop." Her honesty disarmed me. I felt the same fear. Two directions, both leading somewhere we couldn't predict. There was no right choice, only the one that hurt less. "I don't want to lose you," I said. "You won't," she replied. Her voice trembled, but there was conviction behind it. "We just have to figure this out." The words hung between us, delicate and dangerous. She stood suddenly and walked to the window. Outside, the night was deep, the sky streaked with faint city light. She crossed her arms, staring into the dark. "What if we took a break?" she said after a long pause. "A break?" I echoed. She turned to face me. "From whatever this is. Some time to think, to see what we really want." Her logic was sound, but it landed like a stone in my chest. The thought of distance, of pretending not to feel what I already felt, scared me more than anything. "Maybe that's a good idea," I said, even though it felt like lying. Lena nodded, her expression softening. "We don't have to decide everything tonight," she said. "We just need some space to breathe." The silence that followed was strange, less tense, more hollow. I wanted to reach out, to take her hand again, but I didn't. I sat there staring at the pattern of shadows across the table, wishing I could freeze the moment before it changed. After a while, she walked back over and sat down. Her hand reached across the table, finding mine. The touch was small but grounding. "One day at a time," she whispered. I squeezed her hand, the words echoing through my chest. "One day at a time." For the first time in weeks, we didn't kiss. We didn't cross any lines. We just sat there, holding hands in the quiet, the weight of everything we'd done and everything we hadn't pressing down like soft gravity. Time passed, and eventually, the house went still again. But something inside me had changed. I realized that no matter how much space we gave each other, the line between us was already gone. What we'd shared wasn't just a mistake. It was a truth neither of us could unfeel. Lena looked at me once more before she left the room. "We'll figure it out," she said, her voice calm, almost gentle. And even though I knew nothing about the future made sense, I believed her. Maybe that belief was the most dangerous part of all. Some moments rewrite the way you see everything, and no matter how far you step back, your heart always remembers the place where the line disappeared.